Hello, how is everybody doing? I posted on my Instagram story to reply with any question you have for me about MMA, any hot take that you have, any fight prediction that you want from me, basically just any question that you can think of that's MMA related or any statement that's on your mind to reply to this, and I will give my response to that. So we have about 22 questions, and let's just get right into it. Let's not waste any time. Question number one: do you think that Islam has any contenders at any weight, lightweight, welterweight, or middleweight? Well, he would never fight a middleweight, so that doesn't make any sense. Lightweight, he's not going to go back down to lightweight, but of course, there are two obvious names in that division that would give him problems, those being Arman Tsarukyan and Ilia Topuria. I guess you can see how the fight between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett goes. If Paddy Pimblett just looks like a world beater, then maybe he can throw his name into the hat as well for that. I just don't think so. I'm still not sure who I'm going to pick for that fight. It's in a few days, so I need to make a prediction video for that. But yeah, the contenders at lightweight, of course, are Islam Makhachev, or sorry, Ilia Topuria and Arman Tsarukyan. He already beat Arman Tsarukyan, but that was on short notice, and that was when Tsarukyan was 23 years old. Ilia Topuria is one of my favorite fighters, if not my favorite fighter in the sport right now. Ever since he became champion, I said that Islam would beat him. I never felt confident in that matchup. Even at welterweight, like that makes even less sense for him to win that fight at welterweight. I have zero confidence for him to go up to 170 and beat Islam. Of course, he has a puncher's chance, and he is very skilled. And I just see so many people say that he runs through Islam. I don't know what you've seen from both guys, which would lead you to believe that, because we haven't really seen him run through anybody except for Charles Oliveira, who, okay, is older. He's chinny. Now, I've always been a staunch defender in that win, and I said that's a very underrated win because a lot of people made the claims that I just said. But yeah, we've really never seen him run through anybody besides Charles Oliveira. I don't feel confident in Topuria beating Islam Makhachev at any weight class. I think Islam Makhachev is virtually unbeatable at 155. And at 170, there's, of course, Shavkat Rakhmonov, who can be a very tricky matchup for him because frame-wise, he's very tall, he's very long, very powerful. He's very quick as well. Islam looked a little slower at 170 because he just filled out his frame and he fights kind of different at that weight. So he's definitely a contender. I don't believe Kamaru Usman is a contender at all. Of course, you have Elie Abdelaziz talking about him getting the title shot. That's just disgusting. I think the sport would be ruined, and the legitimacy of the championship belt and the company would just be destroyed. So, yeah, I mean, of course, he could put up a fight for him because he's experienced and he's been there and he's fought everybody. So, Kamaru Usman is never going to be an easy out. But I think that's a very easy win for Islam Makhachev, and I don't think it's deserving for Kamaru Usman at all. Jack Della Maddalena, we saw him just get rendered useless against him. Michael Morales is a very suitable contender. I see a lot of people picking him by knockout. I honestly would not be surprised if he does knock him out in the first round. But when you watch his fight against Neil Magny, you just saw him get controlled against the fence in ways that Islam Makhachev would just do so much better. Like I believe that fight. It's very tricky, right? Because we've never really seen Islam fight a guy that's larger than him, and we've never seen him fight a guy that has crazy power like that. You know, like Charles Oliveira has some power, okay, but not like a Michael Morales. We've never seen him fight an Ilia Topuria. You know, it's like it's really tough to pick how that fight would go. You also have another very powerful, long, rangy guy in Carlos Prates, who I think would also give him a very tough test as well. So you got a few guys at welterweight. So I can kind of make sense as to why he's saying to Ilia Topuria, you know, focus on your own division and focus on your own contenders, because it's kind of true, to be honest. And also when he says that he's never proven anything at lightweight, that there also is some merit to that. He's only beaten two guys at lightweight, those being Jai Herbert and Charles Oliveira. So yeah, there are some contenders for Islam Makhachev at 170, which I would love to see him fight. Next question. The main problem with modern MMA fans slash takes, in your opinion? I think this is just a human aspect, but especially in a sport like this, nobody is satisfied. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of matchup is made, what kind of fight card is being presented to you. Nobody's satisfied. what kind of performance a guy puts on. Nobody will be satisfied. If it's a 2 second knockout, you're gonna be critiqued. You're gonna have someone critique his gas tank, and we're gonna say, oh, we don't know how long he can. Oh, he got lucky. It was a lucky shot. If he barely squeaks by a guy, then there's always a problem. There's always a criticism. So nobody is ever satisfied with anything, which is especially hard with a sport like this because it's so performance based and it's so prediction based, and there's so much emotion that gets evoked into the sport. I also think, I think there's just a general lack of IQ when it comes to the people that talk about this sport. And I know there's going to be people that will comment and say, "Oh, that's ironic because look at you." Like, there are a lot of people that just talk shit to me in my comments, and they say I'm a couch sideline quarterback, whatever the thing is. I'm not really sure what the terminologies are. But I think there's just a general lack of IQ in people that try to make claims about this sport. Because you'll see people that will say, oh, yeah, this guy should fight for the belt. But he's coming off of 2 losses and he hasn't fought in 2 years. Or there's just a general lack of IQ. Number one, when it comes to just the overall sport, which I think is a testament to how young this sport is because it's only 30 years old, 32 years old. But the first few years didn't even really count, if we're going to be honest. I would say we really started taking the UFC seriously in, I don't know, 2001, 2002. Like, when we're talking about UFC history, we're not going to talk about 1995. We're not going to talk about any champions from 1996, 1997, 98, 99, 2000. Honestly, depends on who you ask. We would say that the UFC gained its legitimacy after the merger with the WEC, which was later on. So that obviously is depending on who you ask. But yeah, I don't know. I think people are very critical of fighters when they shouldn't be, because I think this sport is so complex. There's so many nuances that nobody takes into consideration. Like, if a fighter loses, he's bad. If a fighter loses 2 fights in a row, he's washed. If he, like, it's so tiresome to watch this because, again, that kind of ties into my one point. Nobody's satisfied. It's so hard to watch these sports. There's so many little things that people don't take into consideration. There's injuries, there's short notice matchups. There's just so much that nobody actually thinks about when it comes to this sport. That's whether you're judging a fighter based on the performance, but also whenever you want to judge Dana White on having a lackluster card, or how do you not have these matchups made when this card is here? Oh, this card sucks and it's in 6 months. Like, oh my God, you don't have any fight announcements for the White House card? You don't have any. Like, there's so many nuances. There's so many little things about this sport that go into making it and putting on the show, which I don't think people really take into consideration. And I think more people need to critically think, and they need to get outside of their own head. So yeah, those would be the main problems with MMA media, MMA fans overall. Next question: does Charles retire after the BMF fight? So I think he loses the BMF fight. I think he gets destroyed in the BMF fight. I said this ever since it got announced. I don't think there's a way that he can win this fight. We've never really seen Max Holloway get taken down and held down. We've never seen Max Holloway be in dangerous positions. We've seen him fight tough grapplers, none to the likings of Charles Oliveira, but Charles is old at this point. He's making risky career decisions. He, of course, is very chinny. He always is a live by the sword, die by the sword type of fighter where he's going to engage in a firefight. And I don't think that's a good idea, especially with a new Max Holloway who is at 155. His frame is more filled out. It seems like he's entering a second prime, which is really scary because whenever you have a fighter with that many miles on the clock, especially at that age, with how much damage he's taken, how many significant strikes he's absorbed, normally they go on the downward spiral. But he's 34 years old, and he's on a nice little win streak right now at his new division. He gave up 145 after he accomplished everything that there was to accomplish. He took the loss to Ilia, realized that there was no purpose of him killing himself to make 145. And, shooting for a lightweight title, that's always been in his cards. He had a time where he failed at that. So, yeah, I think he very handedly gets past Max Holloway, or gets past Charles Oliveira in this fight. To answer your question, no, I don't think he retires because, number one, that's just not who he is. He is a fighter that's loved by the fans, and I truly believe that that's what he thinks he was put on this world to do. That every time he goes out there, it's always theatrics. He has his 30-person entourage with him. He jumps on the cage on the octagon, and he's embracing the crowd. I truly believe that he loves this. So even if he gets knocked out in the first 3 seconds, no, he's not going to retire. He also has said before that he's not going to retire because people were calling for him to retire after he lost to Ilia, and he was like, "Oh, dude, I'm nowhere near retiring. I still have more fights. I still want to keep doing this." So yeah, I don't think he's going to retire, even if he takes a very brutal loss. He's just going to be one of those legends, one of those fan favorites that sticks around and probably takes too many losses, which I am not a fan of. I really am a big advocate for fighters hanging up the gloves when it's clear that they're not in any contention, because number one, you're taking unnecessary damage, which is really for no reason, because if you know you're not going to fight for a belt, why continue to fight, besides paychecks, unless you need the money? But also just, I mean, I'm kind of a perfectionist. So a guy like Tony Ferguson, right? When he was 26-3, he loses to Justin Gaethje. He's 26-4. Then when you lose a couple more fights, just call it a career. But now he lost all those fights in a row. I believe his MMA record is 26-11. So your record looked so pristine at 26-3. You're now 26-11, and people will remember you for those losses. You're not going to be remembered as much as you're in your great performances, which I think is, I don't know, maybe these fighters don't care about that, and I'm just too weird, and I focus on perfectionism. But yeah, I don't think he's going to retire. To answer your question, no. Next question: fighters who have pissed hot cannot be considered in any GOAT debate. So, I mean, if that's your opinion, I'm fine with that. I just think you need to be consistent, because there are so many people that will say Jon Jones is not the greatest of all time because he tested positive for steroids. Oh, but he's number two, though. He's the second greatest fighter of all time. It just doesn't make any sense to me why you're going to condemn him for pissing hot, like you say, and testing positive for steroids. You're going to condemn him and say he cannot be the greatest of all time, but he can be the second greatest of all time. It doesn't make sense, because if you're going to discredit him or you're going to disqualify him from being the greatest of all time, why not disqualify him from being on your rankings at all? And there are a lot of people that say that. They say, oh, yeah, he's never going to be in my GOAT debate because he tested positive for steroids. Also, I don't like when people pick and choose who they want to consider in their GOAT list, because they'll say, no, it's not going to be Jon Jones. He's not my GOAT because he took steroids. But Anderson Silva, they're going to praise and say he's the greatest fighter of all time. He's number two. He's number three of all time. Okay, well, he tested positive twice, I believe. There are a lot of other people that have tested positive, which people don't really seem to acknowledge. Then you'll have the Jon Jones fanboys who love Jon Jones, but they'll hate on TJ Dillashaw and say he can't be in the bantamweight GOAT conversation because he tested positive. People will say Islam is one of the greatest of all time, but he tested positive. People will say Sean O'Malley is one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. He's tested positive. So there's so much nuance to this conversation. There's so many different what do you say? There's so many different ways you can look at this conversation, and nobody is ever consistent. So again, if that's going to be your opinion, if you don't think they should be considered in the GOAT talks because of them testing positive, just be consistent and either, number one, disqualify him, and number two, disqualify everybody. Don't just say it can't be Jon Jones, but it can be Anderson Silva. He's number five. You have to be consistent. Islam versus Ilia, who do you have? I have Islam Makhachev. I've always had Islam Makhachev. He's too big. He's too strong. He's too smart. He is just too dominant. I don't think Ilia has the frame to take on a welterweight Islam Makhachev. Islam is so smart. He's so well coached. He makes great in-fight adjustments. He's so risk-averse in a way that is not timid, if that makes sense, because there are a lot of fighters who are risk-averse and they don't do anything and then they lose. A guy like Marlon Vera, very risk-averse. He'll in the first round, he'll do nothing. He'll lose. In the second round, maybe he'll throw some body kicks and he'll throw a couple head kicks. He'll land maybe 4 more significant strikes than his opponent, and he'll win round 2. And then come round 3, he won't do enough, and then he'll lose, and then he'll complain about the decision. So there are guys like that who are very risk-averse, but it's to their detriment. Islam Makhachev is risk-averse to his advantage because he knows, number one, because he has such good fight IQ, but number two, he's so well coached. He knows what battles he can win and what battles he can't win. I just think he has the advantage everywhere. Of course, he has the overall grappling advantage. Yes, we did see Ilia Topuria get into a very tough position with Charles Oliveira, pass his guard, and then get in a crucifix, which we've never really seen against a guy with the grappling prowess of Charles Oliveira. So that is very impressive. I'm not just going to say that Topuria is going to be a sitting duck on the ground and he has no idea what he's doing, because that's not the case at all. He is very competent on the ground, but again, Islam Makhachev is so strong. He is so durable. We've seen him just get better from fight to fight. Like if you watch the fight against Alexander Volkanovski for the third time, you can't tell me, oh yeah, that guy is going to walk through Jack Della Maddalena. He's going to take him down, control the fuck out of him, and just dominate him, render him useless. You wouldn't say that. He has made so many adjustments after fighting these great opponents. And as much as I love Ilia Topuria, it's not possible, dude. He has a puncher's chance, of course. I just don't think that he has the movement to dart in and out and to the left and to the right and keep him at bay. He doesn't throw body kicks at all, so he has to completely rely on underhooks. And Islam is so good at getting to the hips. And when you're in that boxing stance, the hips are right there for the taking. So I just don't see a way other than landing a big shot and hurting him bad that Ilia Topuria wins this fight, because like what? He's just going to outdamage him for 4 rounds? He's going to stuff all his takedowns? Like, are we being serious? I just don't see it. I think we need to see him fight a guy like Arman Tsarukyan, and if he completely renders Arman Tsarukyan useless when it comes to the wrestling and stuffing all the takedowns, grabbing good underhooks, I don't see a way that he can beat Islam Makhachev. It's just not possible. I don't know. Again, as much as I love Ilia Topuria, I don't think it's possible. Let's see. Islam surpasses GSP and Jones if he defends his welterweight belt once. Well, I already have Islam as the greatest fighter of all time. I think he's already passed Jon Jones. I think he passed GSP a couple fights ago, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not going to say that GSP is overrated, because his resume is damn near flawless, but I'm a big quality over quantity guy, and Islam Makhachev just has the better quality. You can't even make a debate for that. I will debate anybody with that. He has the better quality from top to bottom, and he's only going to continue to fight higher quality opponents, because if he gets a guy like Kamaru Usman, even with his older age, if he gets a guy with Carlos Prates, Michael Morales, I know those guys aren't big names, but if you put them against many of the guys that GSP fought, it would not be fucking close. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the Gen Z fan, the we're done with the 90s guy. I don't want to be that guy, because I fucking hate a lot of those people. But if we're just going to be real, yeah, Islam Makhachev surpassed GSP. Number one, just in overall skill wise, he's just better everywhere. Better wrestler. He's a better boxer. He's better on the feet. I can keep on going. I'll debate anybody with that. But he also just has a better resume. It's as simple as that. Of course, he does not have the amount of title defenses that he does, but he now has the second belt. And I don't know why that's your barrier for him to become greater than GSP if he defends his welterweight belt once, because GSP never did defend his middleweight belt. So, yeah, I mean, I can make a video about that. I think I've already talked about that in length on my Instagram account. So, we'll get into the next one. Can RDR get back into contention with a win over Caio Borralho? Absolutely, he can. And this goes into my biggest problem with MMA fans, right? Because RDR was seen as the guy. He was seen as the man, won 4 fights in a very short window, beats Robert Whittaker, who everybody holds very highly. However, I think he's a little bit overrated. We'll talk about that later. But went on a 3-fight win streak, then beats Robert Whittaker, which, I mean, no matter what way you skin it, that's a very impressive 4-fight win streak to enter the UFC, especially as a guy who's coming from a different promotion, when most of the time that doesn't work out well for these guys. You look at the guys like Patchy Mix, Aaron Pico. RDR really impressed from the moment that he got into the UFC. And then he loses a fight against Brendan Allen, who I don't even know why people think he's bad. I don't know where that narrative came from. Yeah, he doesn't have the highest fight IQ, but if you look at his past fights, when he transitioned into training with Bilal Muhammad in his camp in Chicago, he's just looked so much better. And if you watch his interviews and you watch him in the corner, you watch the way that he talks about his gym, he is so well coached, and he's a very coachable fighter, which is a very underrated very underrated aspect to have as a fighter, because a lot of people are very headstrong and they're very, no, I'm going to do this my way. I'm going to disregard what you said. You're just a coach. I'm in the octagon. I'm the fighter. I'm going to do what I'm comfortable with. No. What's his name? Brendan Allen is a very coachable fighter. And he's got so much better over the past couple of fights of his. And I think he's going to make waves in this division. I think he can beat a guy like Nasruddin involved in a rematch. I don't really think he's going to do well against Anthony Hernandez in a rematch. But I would love to see him fight some of these guys. I mean, the Borralho fight, I love that. I would love to see that matchup. But yeah, I very much think RDR can get back into contention with a win over Kyle Borralho because there's only 4 or 5 guys that are in that division, and RDR is already in the top 7, 8. So if he beats Kyle Borralho, he's gonna move up a little bit. And I mean, Kyle Borralho is not a bad fighter by any means. Maybe he didn't look as good early on against Imavov, but that's still a very good name to have on your resume, and that's no easy task to get past. So with a win over Kyle Borralho, 100% he can get back into contention. I'm a very big fan of this guy, and I think we all just completely blew this out of proportion. Oh, he quit in a stool, ran your quitter. I just think that's BS. Like when you cut weight 5 times in 12 months, when you weigh 230 pounds, when you're cutting down to 185, it's going to have a it's going to take a toll on you. It's inevitable. That's just how this sport is. So I think we need to stop overreacting with that. And I think that's a very winnable fight for him too. I may pick him to win that. Yeah, I'm going to pick Randy DeRitter to win that. I haven't watched film and haven't got into it, into the X's and O's, and I haven't brought up the whiteboard and shit. But yeah, I think Randy DeRitter is going to win that fight. Let's see. Prime Yuri versus Prime Jones. So the thing about this question is that obviously Jon Jones is better than Yuri Prochazka in every single way measurable. But the thing about Yuri Prochazka is that he has a fighter spirit like no other, and he has the ability to, as Leon Edwards' coach has said, pull the shit out of the fire. He has the ability to do that like we have never seen. Yuri Prochazka is an anomaly. We will never see a fighter like Yuri Prochazka, and we never have seen a fighter like Yuri Prochazka. The way that he can win fights is like we've never seen. So, like I said, Jon Jones is better than him in every single way, but his toughness, his brute force, his chin, which wouldn't even really be a factor because it's not like Jon Jones has power in his hands at all, and it's not like Jon Jones would give Yuri fits on the feet at all. Like the only way that Jon Jones wins this fight is, I mean, just fighting smart and not standing with him, which would obviously be how he would win this fight. But again, Yuri Prochazka just finds ways to win fights. So if Yuri fought prime light heavyweight Jon Jones 10 times, he wins 3, maybe 4 of those just off of intangibles alone, not off of fight skill, not off of, oh, he's better than him in this, he's a better kickboxer, he's got better jiu-jitsu. No, it's not any of that. He is just so capable, he is so tough, he's so dominant, and you can never count him out. So, yeah, Prime Yuri Prochazka wins 3 or 4 of those fights if they fight 10 times. Should the BMF title only be for lightweights? What BMF title fights would you make for other divisions? I don't think the BMF title should be only for lightweights, but at the end of the day, if you just add a BMF belt for each division, well, I mean, you can't do that, right? It was only added, if you really want to go to the very beginning of it, it was only added for a gimmick. Like, it was not going to be a thing that sticks around. This was just some cool promotional shit that the fans actually got behind. But then, come UFC 291, there was no main event, and you couldn't have any title fight headline that. So they were kind of scrambling, like, what are we going to do? So then you put Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier, and those guys are both fan favorites. They're both sluggers. They have a very fan-friendly style. So they just said, fuck it, we're going to put the BMF belt back on the line. So, yeah, I mean, again, I don't think you can just add it for each division because it just, I don't know, it just makes it even more of a gimmick. Makes it more of a gimmick than it already is. What BMF title fights would you make for other divisions? Diego Lopez versus Gene Silva, I mean, that already happened. That is the definition of a BMF fight. Yuri Prochazka versus Khalil Roundtree, that's the definition of a BMF fight, but that already happened. I mean, you got guys like Dan Hooker, Chris Duncan, Mateusz Rumbetsky, Miktabek Oralbai. Like some of those guys have already fought each other, but if you just put those four guys in the cage, Esteban Ribovic, like if you just put those 5 or 6 guys in a revolving door and like, oh, you fight this guy and you fight this guy, those are the BMF fights that I can think of. But I don't know. I mean, Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria 2 for the BMF belt, that's just so gimmicky and weird to me. I'd much rather that be for Undisputed. I hope we don't put the BMF belt up for that. Honestly, I don't really want to see the BMF belt again after this. I think there's a very few select guys that could really be a part of that. But I mean, like, what are you gonna do? You gonna do another Michael Chandler fight for the BMF belt? Like, there's, I don't know. I think it's kind of strange. I'm not super against it. I'm against it headlining cards, but I mean, if you want to just put it as a headliner for a fight night, I'm fine with that. But I don't think it should be a thing that is frequent. I think it should be a once a year maybe type of thing. Next question. Favorite unranked prospect in each division? So flyweight, we're going to go Ray Saruya. Very good guy. He is a victim of Joshua Van, and he's pretty inactive. He actually just booked a fight against... Oh, who was it against? It was a good name, but it was a winnable name. I don't remember who he was against, but he booked a fight recently. I think he's going to fight in the Apex in a couple months. Very winnable fight, if I remember. Racery is just very good. He's super young. He's 23 years old. He's a very dominant grappler all around. Very good wrestler, too. Looked okay against Joshua Van, but Joshua Van is, of course, the sitting champion now. So there's no shame in losing to that guy. Bantamweight, I'm going to go with, what's his name? Oh my gosh, I just fucking had it in my head. Dude, Toporia's brother, Alexander Topuria, looked very good in his last fight. Very improved. Just very technical style. I love watching a style like that. There was a couple questions that I have for him. Like I remember, I have a notes document on my phone that I take notes on for each fighter. I remember writing down quite a few things that I didn't like about Topuria. Like really he needs to start and lead with some combinations. He's very one punch guy. He's very much looking for the one shot, looking for the big shot, which I think is kind of amateur. I don't think that's going to get you too far in this division. That's, you look at guys like Josh Emmett, that's how they fight. They look for the one shot, the one big punch. There was a lot of that, but I mean, you have the Clement Club that he trains with. He has his brother that he trains with, who's one of the greatest of all time. So I think the things that I wrote down are things that can be fixed and will be corrected because he's very young in his UFC career. This is only his second UFC fight. So, yeah, featherweight, Austin Bashi, a guy that I'm not going to say I trained with him, but I used to go to his gym a couple years ago for a little bit, and then I had some health issues and I stopped going. But Austin Bashi is a big training partner of Diego Lopez. He's actually out in Australia right now preparing for the Alexander Volkanovski fight. He was in Lopez's camp in his corner for the first fight as well. He's a Michigan guy like myself, so of course I'm going to have some bias there, but he's a real short, stocky guy. He's 5'6". He's short for the division, but he's a fucking tank. He's a brute force tank, phenomenal wrestler. He's got big power in his hands. He's really crisp on the feet as well. He's 1-1 in the UFC. He lost his debut to Christian Rodriguez, who is a seasoned veteran. There's no shame in losing to that guy. He's known as the prospect killer anyways, but he got his redemption with a submission win in the first round in his UFC, not debut, in his second fight. And then he had a third fight, which he had to pull out of for injury. He was supposed to fight Jamal Emmers, but he had to pull out because he got injured. So I'm very eager to see him get back in there when he returns to the States, because like I said, he's in Australia right now. Yeah, so Austin Bashi is my featherweight pick. Lightweight, I wrote down Quillen Salkeld, Tom Nolan. I mean, not really dark horse picks. Everybody knows about these guys, but I think they're very good, and they're going to run that division eventually because you have a lot of guys in the top of the division that are going to move away. Like Justin Gaethje isn't going to stick around for that much longer. I mean, Charles. I mean, if he wins, okay, he's sticking around. But if he loses, which I think he will, he's going to continue to drop down the rankings, and I don't think he's going to, stay high in that division. So eventually, when the lightweight division gets older and moves on, you're going to have guys like Quillen Salkeld and Tom Nolan just run the division. I think they're very skilled. Salkeld was my fighter of the year Or sorry, not fighter of the year. One of the fighters of the year, but he was my rookie of the year. Welterweight, I have a few guys. I have Sam Patterson, looked very good. He's on a 4-fight win streak. I believe 4 KOs as well. Jacoby Smith, great guy. I was singing his praises ever since his first fight, which was against. Oh, it was a white dude. I don't remember his name, though. I can't think of it off the top of my head. And in his second fight, he was fighting a very tough guy, very tough out, but he gassed out really early, and it was kind of concerning. But he still, looked very good. He just kind of, blew his gas tank quite soon. So I think he's going to learn in his next fight to not just go all out in the first 30 seconds. But he's a very big entertainer, super good. He's very well rounded as well. Other welterweights, I have Ramiz Brahimaj, I just said. Oh no, Ramiz Brahimaj. Yeah, that's right. He actually just booked a fight as well. He is fighting Punelli Soriano in the Apex. I like that fight a lot. I think Punelli Soriano loses that fight. Looked like shit in his last fight. Yeah, I was not a fan of how Punelli Soriano fought in his last fight because he came off a KO against. Wasn't Earls Medic? No, it wasn't Earls Medic. It was. Oh, I don't remember who he was against. It was a while ago though. It was like the beginning of last year. He changed his weight class and then finished a guy in like a minute. Why can't I fucking think of his name? I don't know. But yeah, Punelli Soriano, I once was holding him to a high standard, but now I don't hold him as high after his last performance. I think that Ramiz Brahimaj can get through him, and I think he can finish him as well. That's for welterweight. Middleweight, Atiba Gauthier, again, not a niche pick. Everybody knows about Atiba Gauthier. He fights this week. I think he's going to get the win. Yeah, Atiba Gauthier is so young. He is so fucking dominant. Normally, whenever you have the entire MMA community behind a guy, you know he's going to be special. Because you'll have guys like a Peyton Talbot or a Malcolm Wellmaker or contenders similar to that, where the vast majority are behind them, but there's still one side of the community where they're like, oh, I don't know, he's only fighting cans and he hasn't been tested here. But for some reason, the general MMA fan base, like every single person in the fan base, is just getting behind this guy because that's how good he is. He's 23 years old and he's fucking enormous for the weight class. So powerful. I think he's going to have a very high future. I don't think the middleweight division is very good outside of the top 8, 9, 10. And I think he'll be there in no time, especially with his age. So middleweight, I put Ira Baranuski. I mean, how can you not love that fight that he had against, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm missing all these names. Ibo Aslan. That was UFC 324, the last card of the year. Was 323? 324, the last card of the year. He had that crazy drunk bar fight scrap against Ibo Aslan. He actually just booked a fight as well. I don't remember who he was against. It was against a guy that I think he has like one fight in the UFC. Just a random unranked guy. But yeah, Iwo Baranushki. I know that we didn't see much technique from that, but light heavyweight is a very bad division. So when you look at the unranked light heavyweight sector, you don't have many guys that you can choose from. So I picked Iro Baranushki. And similar to the heavyweight division, I mean, there's only a few guys. Like Mario Pinto is a very good fighter. Very inactive, though. I don't know why he's just not really around. I think I saw him with a fight booked. I could be wrong. I think there was a fight that got booked for him. Maybe. Brando Pericic, he made his debut. I think it was on the Dominic Reyes versus Carlos Ulberg card, the Australia card. I think he made his debut on that card. Maybe it was a little bit before that. But he looked very good in that fight. I believe he got a first-round finish. And another prospect for the heavyweight division I have is Steven Asplund. I mean, you don't have many guys. I mean, like all those 3 names that I just said, if they get one more win, they're going to be ranked in the heavyweight division. That's how easy it is. Like it's so fun. Like, I guess Rizvan Kuniev, he's not ranked, so you can count him as a prospect. And in my opinion, he got robbed by Curtis Blades. I thought Rizvan Kuniev easily won that fight. Blades didn't look that good. He said that he tore his, I think it was his MCL in that fight. I think he said he tore his MCL or maybe his meniscus in that fight in round 1. I hope that's true because it didn't look that good, and I really don't think he won that fight. Speaking of Rizvan Kuniev, he was booked against Ryan Spann, but Ryan Spann had to pull out, and Jelton Almeida stepped in. on very short notice. So that's going to be a fucking fight. And if you get that win on short notice, Riz Vankouniev is now in the top 6. Like he should be. He should already be in the top 4 because I thought he beat Blades. But with a win against a guy like Almeida, who is super dangerous, I know we don't really like him as a fighter, which is kind of true. And if I'm being honest, I think he did kind of get robbed against Alexander Volkov. And I'm saying that I was one of the first conductors of the Jelton Almeida hype train. I remember watching this guy on UFC 276. I think it was 276. He had a great win. Then UFC 283, he beat the shit out of Shamil Abdurakhimov. And I was like, bro, this guy is going to be a fucking problem. And he continued to get win after win. He submitted Jairzinho Rosenstrike. He submitted Sergey Spivak. He lost to Curtis Blades, but I still was like, dude, he took down Curtis Blades 11 times in that fight. And that fight ended in the beginning of the second round. He took him down 11 fucking times. So that just shows how dominant he is. Yes, he is a terrorist of sport, and I have done a complete 180 on my fandom for Almeida because of how fucking lame he fought against Alexander Volkov. But that's a really tough fight. No matter what way you want to put it, that's a very tough fight for any person in the division. So if you get that win, then Riz Vankouniev can easily get into the... I don't even know how the fuck I started talking about him. I'm sorry. But, yeah. Next question. Let's see. Who are you picking, Paddy or Justin? Stay tuned for my prediction fight. For my prediction video. Who does Arman realistically fight next? Really tough because he should be fighting for the belt, but that's not happening. So you have to give him the winner of the BMF belt because everybody in the top 5 is booked in the lightweight division because you have Ilia Topuria, who's the sitting champion. You have Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje, who are booked for the interim belt. You have Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, who are booked for the BMF belt. And then there's other guys that just don't really deserve to fight him, if we're being real. Like, yeah, the Mateusz Gamrot rematch is a little intriguing. Of course, we all wanted to see him get back for that because that's one of the most universally agreed upon robberies by the MMA community. But realistically, the winner of the BMF belt has to fight Sarukian because the winner of the interim belt obviously has to fight Ilia Topuria whenever that happens because you're not going to have Arman Sarukian fight the winner of... Or you're not going to have Ilia Topuria fight Arman Sarukian now. Meanwhile, you have the interim champion just sitting. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Obviously, when Topuria returns, he's going to fight the winner of the interim belt. So that leaves Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. So if Charles wins, okay, are we going to give him Topuria again, really? Is that going to be the matchup that we give him? Is it going to be any different? Is there any intrigue to see that fight again? And then Max Holloway, I mean, sure, he definitely would have a leg to stand on, and he definitely would be deserving of the title shot, but at the end of the day, you already lost to the sitting champion, and Arman Sarukian is more deserving of a title shot than he is. So, yeah, I mean, we're probably going to see him fight Gamrot, to be honest. I can see that fight happening a lot. Gamrot would just take that fight, even though it doesn't really do much for him because he's coming off a loss. But, I mean, I think he needs to fight the winner of the BMF belt. Hopefully not for the BMF belt because that just wouldn't really make sense. I don't think Arman Sarukian fits into the narrative or the storyline of the BMF belt because that's just not really how he fights. He doesn't have the fan-friendly, throwing big punches, slugger, take one to give one style. He doesn't have that. So I think he needs to fight the winner of the BMF belt because that's just really all that would be deserving. Next, let's see. Favorite UFC fighter? Well, Uriah Faber is my favorite fighter of all time. He has been for quite a few years. He's just, I don't know. I like a lot of the Team Alpha Male guys. I'm a big fan of Dominic Cruz. I didn't used to be. I used to fucking hate Dominic Cruz. But I've come around, and I've become a much bigger fan of him now. I really like TJ Dillashaw. Love Cody Garbrandt. He's one of my favorites of all time as well. Uriah Faber is my favorite ever. If you want to go currently, then the list kind of gets basic. Like Jiri Prochazka is probably my favorite right now. I love Alexander Volkanovski. I love Alex Pereira. I love Charles Oliveira. I'm a big Michael Chandler fan. That's not a popular consensus from the MMA community. I've really come around to Arman Sarukian. I really have. I used to fucking hate Arman Sarukian. I remember like 3 or 4 years ago when he used to call out Michael Chandler, and he was like, dude, You're calling out Conor. Meanwhile, you could have lost 3 entertaining fights by now. And then I remember him calling out Michael Chandler like way back in the day, like 3 years ago. And I just thought he was so overrated. I picked Beneil Dariush to fucking destroy him. How good of a pick that was. I picked him to lose against Charles. How good of a pick that was. But now I've come around to him. I don't really know why. But I really have come around to him. Yeah, Pereira, like I said, I like Pereira a lot. Tom Aspinall, I'm a big Tom Aspinall fan. I like Austin Bashi partially for the local bias because I am from Michigan. And I, used to train at his gym. I wasn't there for too long. I guess one day I'll break down that story. But yeah, I have a lot of more questions. I didn't think this video would run this long. I'm already at 40 minutes of just uninterrupted talking. I have like 7 or 8 more questions that I have answered, but I think I'm going to be annoying and save that for another video. So thank you for tuning in. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at VinceMMA1. Also, check out 3punchconvo.com if you want to join a community of like-minded individuals that want to talk about fighting. Check my pinned post on my Instagram account and use code VinceMMA for a free first month. So that concludes this video. Stay tuned for a fight prediction video as well, coming soon.